Hi guys, and welcome to my review of two IEMs. The first one is the TRIPOWIN PICCOLO, which is a release that TRIPOWIN has recently done that's gone a little bit under the radar. It's been really very quiet. Not much has been said about it. Not much has been mentioned in any way. It's a very nice IEM in terms of its build quality. It's got an 11mm LCP driver. Just quickly show you through the case. Simple accessories, nothing special. Brings a couple of tips, nothing really unusual. No carrying case, as you can see. The IEMs came over there, which I'll show to you in a second. Very basic. I mean, really basic as can be. Price is $35. So I guess they cut corners in some of the accessories to offer us an IEM which is very good looking. It's a beautiful metal shell, nice design of the faceplate. There you go. Two colors available, just this silver one, which is an absolute fingerprint magnet, and then a black version. This is not the stock cable. This is an XINHS cable. The stock cable is actually this one over here. Okay, that's the stock cable. I mean, it's not a bad cable, doesn't really tangle or anything, but look, it's $35. Let's not be overly demanding. Yes, I have seen better cables at even cheaper IEMs. It's fine, it's 3.5mm termination. It is what it is. As I was saying, this is an XINHS cable that I'm using, 2.5mm, 2.5mm balanced. The IEMs, they do require, they've got a good weight to them, so they do require you to choose your tips carefully. The stock tips, I didn't really enjoy, not the performance, but the way they just sat in my ear, because they are very soft. And so they would lose their grip, their fixation very easily. So I opted for my trusted KB Euro 7s, you guys already know, and no issues there. I mean, this is a very stiff silicone tip. It's got good body to it, so it kind of holds the IEM in its place really well, especially because, as I mentioned, the weight is quite significant. Rear vent hole there. Okay, nozzle is also a metal nozzle, as you can see. I mean, in terms of the build, they've done their homework, and I would even perhaps dare say that this is probably the best TRIPOWIN IEM to date. Honestly, I've had basically all the models, just an all-BA set I didn't have. And this is probably the best one. Okay, so this is the PICCOLO, and the other IEM is the SIMGOT EW100P, which is their budget entry. Again, very simple packaging, nothing really too outrageous. The IEMs came over there. The stock cable is actually not bad, in the sense that it's basically as good as it's a cable which kind of reminds you of the cable that you get on the SSR SSP from 10 HiFi, kind of that kind of termination. It's fine. Look, this is $20, so again, let's not be too demanding or too picky. Brings a couple of tips. Again, nothing special, really run-of-the-mill tips. Once more, like I mentioned with the case of the TRIPOWIN, basic accessories. Money. The money hasn't been spent so much in the accessory side of things, but they've decided to focus on giving us a good sounding IEM. Okay, I'll show it to you now in a second. Just 1 second. That's it. Okay, here's the SIMGOT. I'm using a Fahel hibiscus cable. I really like this cable, and it matches the nature of the SIMGOT nicely. Very light IEM. although it actually looks nice. I mean, it doesn't look anything fancy. It looks nice. I'm guessing, yes, obviously a little bit more attention to detail could have been had, but as I mentioned, this is $20. I got these ones from LINSOUL. So for what it is, it's fine. This is ultra budget, but with very nice tuning. And in a couple of minutes, when I show you the graphs, you'll understand what I'm saying by that. Okay, so the fit is fine. A little bit more demanding in terms of the tip that you use, because the nozzle is a little bit on the short side. So you got to find a nozzle a tip that again will keep the IEM in its place. And once again, my KB07 came to the rescue. So what do I have here to kind of position better these two IEMs? Well, I could have brought out a whole bunch of IEMs. The reality is that the state of the market over the last 2 years is been crazy, in the sense that you have so many IEMs coming out every week that you end up forgetting that there are and there have been previous releases which are of significance, and on that basis I could have, as I mentioned, I could have brought out a whole bunch of IEMs to serve as a comparison. So I've kind of went and fetched some older ones, and also went and fetched some new releases. What do I have exactly here? So that we can. I've got the KZ ZVX, very very nice single DD. I know that all the rage now has been around the DFI, but the ZVX, especially with these wide bore BGVP tips, it is a fantastic IEM. It honestly is, and you can get it as low as $17.99. So this kind of build quality, all metal shell, and sturdily built. I mean, it's not a metal shell and it's flimsy or anything of the sort. Focus, come on, focus. There we go. It's a very sturdy looking shell. It's well built. It's got nice weight. I mean, it's a fantastic IEM. So I've got the ZVX. This thing doesn't want to focus. There we go. I've got then here one which is I think I haven't seen anybody else talk about this particular KZ, which is the DFI but with the no switches. Okay, this is the non-switch DFI. Okay, and the reason why I've got this one here actually is because I actually prefer this one after hearing it carefully and comparing it with the stock DFI. I actually prefer this to the switch version. And why is that? Well, because ultimately the tuning possibilities that the switch gives you, the switched version gives you, some of them are really kind of pointless. They lean up too much the sound of the DFI, and this one kind of chooses in my opinion, a happy ground between what is the usual KZ characteristic sound and what the DFI was designed to be in terms of its detail capabilities and being a more upscale tune. And in essence, this is very very similar to the ZVX. I mean, what the DFI non-switch version offers is very very much equal to what you get in the ZVX. Okay, then here in the center we have the TRIPOWIN HiFi, the C2. Fantastic IEM, $35. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention. So that's about $18 there. That's about $21 for the DFI no switch. So TRIPOWIN HiFi, the C2, this is $35. Fantastic IEM, honestly, fantastic IEM. Build quality is perfect, as you can see. Metal shell once again, so really nice, sturdily built, sounds fantastic, fits beautifully. There's really nothing that can be pointed out there. Then we have the blonde, the Z300, the HVB collab. Well, I mean, what can I say? It's basically the perfect evolution of the 03. Okay, so doing away with let's say the less positive aspects of the 03 that perhaps some people didn't really enjoy, the excessive bloat of the bass that some considered, the mids that were less polished. So this kind of resolves all that. It loses only in one area, which is in the treble, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. I believe that the driver in the 03 is a very capable driver. It just was tuned in that particular manner because that's what was decided. I still feel that the 03 is an absolute beast of an IEM. Okay, anyway, that's the Blondie, and then that's for $35 as well. And then finally, the SIMGOT, the EA500. The reason it's here primarily is because of the Shark, the EW100. But it's interesting to see how there's a lot of similarities in the tuning of all of these IEMs, a lot of similarities. You know, when I show you the graph section, you'll understand better. Anyway, let's get it straight into the sound and talk about what we want to know, which is how does the Piccolo sound, how does the Shark, the EW100 sound. I'll start with the Shark. The Shark is graphically, it looks kind of similar to what you get in the EA500. And what do I mean by that? Well, nicely enough executed bass, a little bit on the lean side. It's not, it's not, although graphically it even seems to have more bass than the EA500. When you actually listen to it, you straight away see that no, it's a different league. I mean, the LCP driver, the dual diaphragm LCP driver that's here is decent, but it's no match for the A500. And it was actually curious because I read some people actually saying that this was more detailed, cleaner. Yes, well, it's detailed and perhaps even cleaner than the EA500, perhaps because of the fact that it's got less space. But in reality, when you really start listening to it, and you really hear carefully and take several songs to bring out what it is capable of doing, you start seeing that now there's really no comparison with the EA500. It is a very good budget or entry level IEM, but the EA500 is just on a different league. It's a fantastic driver that's been very well tuned, and it shows its strengths. It shows that it is superior in every aspect. Anyway, as I was saying, nice enough bass, quickish, but a little bit on the lean side, especially on the mid bass. The mids are very well done, very well executed. No real shout, no real female vocals come across beautifully. Male vocals as well come across decent. If there was just a little bit more bass, they would benefit from that. Most of the instruments sound as well very timbre, very correct in terms of their timbre and their tonality. It is honestly just the fact that there's that leanness in the bass that sometimes can put things a little bit off or context. I mean, you listen to Play from Angela Johnson. It's a nice bouncy song. The voice, the Frank McComb's voice, mixed with Angela Johnson's voice, the whole rhythm of the song. It's a nice song. It's a really engaging song. But it's a song that you want to have a little bit more bass to make it even more bouncy. And you listen to it on the EA500, and I'm not going to mention the other ones, but you listen to it on the EA500, and it's got all of that. I mean, the EA500, honestly, for me, I think it's a fantastic IEM. Some people have complained about it being a little bit over energetic and having that area there post Pina gain. So let's say just above 2K until around just around 6, 7, a little bit excessively energetic. I didn't find that. Maybe because of the fact, as I've mentioned, that well, I am 52, so my hearing is not what it used to be, and so on and so forth. But honestly, with the red tips, with the red O-ring tips, I have absolutely nothing to complain about. The EA500 sounds beautifully, and this, yes, it gives you vibes of the EA500, but it's just leaner. That's all. Okay. In terms of its technicalities, fantastic. Honestly, very good soundstage, very good imaging. Detail retrieval is perfect. I would say probably the imaging is the standout technicality of this, and the detail retrieval is also very, very competent. The less favorable technicality is perhaps soundstage. It's wide, but I don't know, it seems to lack some height, and perhaps as well some depth. That's the two areas where I kind of thought that the soundstage was a little bit lacking. And then, in terms of the tonality and timbre, although it's correct most of the times, I feel that it's a little bit thin sometimes, so that's perhaps another of its technicalities that's not just on point there. So yeah, I mean, that's basically it. It's a nice sounding budget IM. Like I said, $20, you can't really complain or expect too much. As then compared with the rest of the stuff that it's here, I mean, compared with the KZs, it's way too different. Those are definitely more bass prominent. There are similarities, but those are more bass prominent. So tonally, there will be more complete or more fulfilling. It's not really a question of one being better or one being worse. They are different in their design philosophies in terms of the sound, so can't really compare. But if I have to do that comparison, $20, probably the one that will satisfy most people or more people will end up being one of these two. Okay, as compared with the tin hi-fi, fair enough, it's $35, so it's almost twice the price. Again, there's some similarities in terms of the sound, but the fact that this has got better bass shows itself, and it is a better IM overall than the SIMGOT. The Blonde loses out in terms of its technicalities and so on compared here to the SIMGOT, not much. I mean, the differences are, they trade blows, honestly. The imaging is better here. The soundstage is probably, it just edges out over there. The SIMGOT detail retrieval here is better, but tonally that one is fantastic. It's got more bass, more engaging. It just fills out things better. That transition or that body that the mids require in the Blonde, they just is a little bit more fulfilling, more satisfying, more gratifying, and does justice to a lot more songs. Compared here with the Piccolo, the Piccolo is very similar, honestly, very, very similar to the SIMGOT. It's just less energetic in the mids and in the highs. So you could probably say that this will be a very, very positive or very safe alternative to the EA500. If first of all you don't have the money for the EA500, because again that's twice the price of this, that's about 70, this is 35, but you like that type of sound that the EA500 is capable of giving, just the highs, the upper mids and highs can be a little bit problematic, so the Piccolo will be the option for it. So again, comparing it, if I have to compare the Piccolo with the SIMGOT, the Piccolo is a superior IM, better build quality, better sound overall. It's got that bass that is missing a little bit here on the SIMGOT. Better tonality. It is not a fair comparison because of the issue of the price, as I mentioned, but the reality is this is a better IM. Okay, it is. I'm curious to see how the EW200, that is SIMGOT's next model, will actually fare up against the Piccolo, because that will be around $30. So that's one I'm going to be keeping my eye out on and bringing it to you guys as well once I have it. So yeah, okay, that's the SIMGOT out of the way. continuing here with the piccolo, the piccolo versus the blonde. I would probably opt for the piccolo because it is got that little extra amount of energy in the mids, and a lot more energy in the highs than the blonde has. So it just complements songs better, or at least my playlist, it complements it better. If I have to give a concrete example of what I'm talking about, so like for example, What You Gonna Do, it sounds fantastic on the blonde. What You Gonna Do from Frank Buckham sounds fantastic, nothing wrong there, but it just sounds more complete here for me, to my ears. Tequila Moon by Jesse J, again, it's a song with a lot of details, a lot of twinklies and sparklies. It does it well. It probably is, I guess you could probably say it's less fatiguing. Not that the piccolo is fatiguing, but the piccolo just has that little extra spice to give, for example, the sax a little bit more engagement. Look, the reality is this: they trade blows between the two of them. You really can't go wrong with going with the blonde or going with the piccolo. The thing that you must keep in mind, is just one. The difference that exists in the bass, which is more favorable to the blonde than on the piccolo, is not enough, in my opinion, to compensate the difference that exists in terms of the upper mids and highs on the piccolo versus the blonde. So the piccolo will be technically more capable than the blonde. It will be capable of satisfying more those people that want a little bit extra detail. So that's in essence the biggest difference. Comparing the piccolo with the C2, very, very, very similar. I mean, these are, like I said, these three are all $35. And once again, the difference between these two is less pronounced than the difference between these two and the blonde, in the sense that this is also very capable in terms of its technical abilities. It's also got fantastic timbre and tonality, very detailed like the piccolo is. So I would say these two are very equal. There's no real definite winner or loser in between these two, and that situation kind of repeats itself as well to a certain extent when we're talking about the two KZ brothers compared here with the piccolo. Ultimately, the 11mm driver that's used here is a very competent driver, in my opinion, and it shows its high fidelity in crucial instances, and based on that only, I would say that the piccolo just edges out the KZs. I mean, the truth is this: the KZs have been amazingly well built, amazingly well tuned. I mean, this is not a KZ of 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And if back then you had told me that KZ would have made something like this, I would have said, well, I've always said that KZ had the capability and the knowledge, they just didn't have the desire. But I think most people would have said, no, it's not possible. KZ will never do anything like that. But for example, Get Here from Will Downing. It sounds fantastic on the KZs. There's nothing wrong. But you listen to it on the piccolo, and the piccolo just has that extra atmosphere, that extra finesse that endows Will, that gives Will Downing's voice the necessary the necessary touch of class. Let's put it that way. This is me really going down and nitpicking a lot, But remember, as I said in the beginning, when I was talking about the piccolo is very much on the kind of same wavelength as the EA500. The EA500 is, for me, the best IEM out of all of these ones. Yeah, yes, fair enough. It is also the most expensive one, but it is the most well-tuned IEM out of all of these. And then the piccolo, and I would say the C2 to a certain extent, or the ones that come closer to that kind of vibe that you get there. The blonde is, by nature of its tuning, perhaps if the tuning had been done differently with a different purpose, and not well, then it wouldn't be an HBB obviously, but the driver there is capable. It's just been tuned according to HBB's desire. So it's not that it doesn't or doesn't have the capability of even being also in the same kind of let's say battle in terms of sound with the EA500. It's just a more it sounds more old school, let's put it that way. Okay. The 2KZs, they are on the next level down from these three, let's put it that way. Okay. Another song here that maybe can help you as well kind of figure out, Hello Again from Paul Brown. The guitar with the the drums going in the background, accompanying it and everything. There isn't really any IEM here that does it bad. They all do it well in their own particular ways. The EA500 for me is the best one doing that particular song. Okay, it's not that it blows all the rest out of the way, but it gives it again the necessary fullness, the necessary finesse, the necessary class. The Piccolo is the one that comes closest to the SIMGOT's, the EA500's ability to reproduce the song. The C2 is basically trading blows. And then the rest follow, let's put it that way. And and please don't think that this is me by trying to say that the Z300 isn't capable, or the KZ is not capable, or even that the EW is not even capable. No, they all are capable. The truth is, like I mentioned in the beginning of the review when I started doing this, we have so many IEMs that it's very easy for us to forget existing ones. And I could have brought out a hell of a lot more IEMs. So, for example, let's say if you're a person that owns a C2, is the SIMGOT an option? Is the SIMGOT worthwhile? No, it isn't. You'd be stepping down. If you have the C2, is the Piccolo a possible upgrade? No, it will be more of a side grade, really. The same thing as with the blonde. The blonde will be a side grade. It will be it's not. This hasn't got enough things for you to say that it's an outright winner over that, but neither does that. So these three are in essence side grades. And this is the thing that must be kept in mind always. The fact that you have, or that you already own specific IEMs that maybe 2, 4, 6 months ago were the ones to go for, doesn't necessarily mean that what is coming out now is superior. There have been improvements. There are IEMs that are improvements over previous models, but let's not forget one very important thing. The wheel has been invented, people. Okay, we are just looking at different designs of that center rim of that wheel. And the differences are very minor, very small. It is not easy being as a consumer. You have so much variety that it can be positive and negative, but as a reviewer it is not easy, because if you want to maintain yourself as a person that has a certain amount of verticality, by verticality I mean a certain amount of seriousness, a certain amount of honesty, a certain amount of transparency, you kind of end up falling into the game of most IEMs are really good because the level and the quality overall is conducive to that statement. We don't have those mega differences that we used to have in the past. Anyway, guys, I'll show you the graphs now, and that's it, and we'll take it from there. All right, take care. So welcome, guys, now to the graph section. Let me just start taking away some graphs here so that this is not overly confusing and we can better understand what is going on. Anyway, the first graph I'm going to show you is the Piccolo in its stock tip format. Sorry, not this one. This one here. So this is the Piccolo in its with its stock tip, which is this one here. Okay, and as you can see, it's really soft. It's really very soft. But anyway, that's the Piccolo with its stock tip. You know, everything sits nicely within a window of 72 to 80, so about 8 dBs. There is a slight more energy in the mids than in the bass, so I guess you could probably say this is more mid-centric. But it's got, you know, nice bass, kind of glides nicely into the mid bass and into the mids. Is basically flat by 300 hertz. The pin again starts a little bit earlier than usual, but peaks at around 2, kind of nicely plateaued across there, and then starts dropping off at 4.5, and then there's 2 peaks. I opted for using a wideboard tip, and I'm going to take away the other one. And the wideboard tip kind of maintained everything again within that same more or less window that I've just mentioned. It just complemented a little bit better more this area here. I kind of made it plateaued a little bit more and gave me a lot better extension past 10K. So yeah, it actually benefited the Piccolo's ability to have that 3D-ness, let's put it that way. Okay, so that's the way I listened to my Piccolo. That's the way I did all the comparisons. The next one that I'm showing you now is the graph of the SIMGOT, the EW100P, and you know, when you look straight away at it, you see, okay, well, it seems to have the same bass. No, it doesn't. It follows the same curve, yes, but it doesn't have that same energetic fullness in the bass. You could argue, oh, but that's because it's got more energy here in the, you know, the between 3 and 5, 3 and 6, 3, 5.5. There is a certain amount of truth in that, but no, it is just a leaner sounding IEM. And let's not forget one thing: the Piccolo is using an 11mm driver. You know, the SIMGOT is a 10mm, so that minor difference there of 1mm, which you might think is not significant, is I'm sure noticeable in the total area of the diaphragm itself. Otherwise, in terms of extension, they're both very similar. Okay, so that's those two. The next one that I'm going to put up. Well, yeah, let's actually start. I'll start just with the Piccolo. Okay, so that's just the Piccolo. Piccolo compared with the C2. There we go. Very, very similar again, as you can see. Kind of the same bass curve, bass execution, you know, the way it goes into the mid bass and then into the mids. The C2 just, I would say, peaks later, peaks closer to 3K, and then plateaus, and then has as well that dip and the extension past 10K, which is a good indicator of its 3D capabilities. It's just, I think, a little bit extra more tidy in this area here, between the peak of its pin again and then the peak of the coupler at about 8K. And it just sounds, they sound very similar, honestly, guys. I mean, there isn't really the difference that, oh no, they sound very similar. That's why I say, if you have one, if you really have the C2, the Piccolo is, it's something that you can perhaps pass on. Okay, comparing the Piccolo with the ZVX. Let me put the ZVX up here. Okay, that's the ZVX. I'm just going to change the color to black so it's more contrast. The ZVX, very similar bass, just the ultimate below 45-50 hertz. You got a little bit extra there, but as you can see, they again are very similar. Yes, not as much extension past 10K, but very similar, very, very similar. All right. And then compared with the DFI without the switches. This is number 22. There we go. The DFI you can definitely sense that it has more bass, definitely, very noticeable. And then the way that the mids have been done here between the peak of its pinna gain, which is about 2.5 and 8, is just cleaner, more linear. And then it's got as well, in my opinion, just a slightly more improved extension past 10K. Okay, so that's the DFI there. This is against the EA500, the SIMGOT. And here we see what I was mentioning earlier, which is, although in terms of the bass you don't really notice this difference here, and actually the bass of the EA500 for me, although it's a smaller driver, is a better bass. It's fuller. It's just a better bass than the Piccolo. Not a huge day and night difference, but it is a better bass. I didn't even find that the Piccolo had more rumble than the EA500, to be honest. The EA500 has got that little extra energy there, which skews it, makes it have a tuning which is skewed towards mids and vocals and so on and so forth. And it is especially this area here, 2.5 to 5.5, that some people complained about it just being a little bit too much and so on and so forth. Personally, I didn't find it that way, but as I said in the review, the Piccolo is the perfect alternative if that is an issue or possible area of concern. That's it can be easily resolved. And this one here, number 20, that's the blonde, the Z300, the HBB. Again, a very similar way that the mids are done, although what you do notice is that yes, the Piccolo has got more extension, and it is noticeable. It's as I was saying, although the Piccolo might marginally lose to the Z300 in terms of its bass, in terms of the body that the bass has, which isn't again a huge difference. The Piccolo gains then by the way that the mids and the extension, mids, upper mids and highs are done, just conferring that little extra detail, that little extra more technical capability. Okay, and finally, well, I showed you. Sorry, I had already shown you the SIMGOT. All right, that's it. Now the SIMGOT, then the SIMGOT compared to the blonde. You would think, okay, maybe the bass. No, it's two different IMs. Not really. I wouldn't say that one is an upgrade over the other, because the EW100's got very capable technicalities. I would say these would be viable side grades to each other. Sorry. Next to the SIMGOT, its brother, again, you would think that, the EW's got more bass. No, it doesn't. Forget it. And in terms of the mids, although they seem to have some certain amount of, basically the same amount of energy, and again, extension past 10K, the truth is that the tonality that you find in the EA500 is just more gratifying, more satisfying, because the bass has that extra amount of energy that just complements those upper frequencies better. Okay, and then next to the KZ brotherhood. Sorry, first of all, the DI. No comparison in terms of the bass. Period. Forget it. It's just no comparison. In terms of the mids, they are quite similar. The mids, if you're listening to something which is not going to be very bass heavy, if you're listening to Diana Krall or something like that, you will be quite surprised by how competent the KZ is. Ultimately, I would probably say that they are kind of again, not side grades. The KZ will satisfy more people because it's just got that extra bass that complements then the rest of the frequency spectrum with a little bit more life. Okay, it will sound more alive. Okay, so that's the DI compared with the ZVX. Kind of, we have the same situation, very similar situation. Again, you would think that the bass would be almost the same, but no, sonically it's completely different. And then finally compared with the C2, although as you can see they graph almost identical, the EW100, the way that the bass is done, drops, and then the rise of the pin again, they pick it up. I mean, you could basically say that from 20 hertz up to about 6 almost, they are the same IM. You could say that there's just that extra body in the bass of the C2 that just complements everything in a more competent manner, in my opinion. Yeah, guys, that's it. I mean, I'll just show you again the graph of the EW100, okay, the graph of the PICCOLO. All right, very nice. Honestly, I was very surprised with this IM, to be truthful. Well, I'm always truthful. I try to be, at least. But I will tell you this much: give it a go with the whiteboard tips. You'll be impressed. And then finally, just so I can just touch up on something that people had been asking me about, the DI. This is the graph of the DI with the switches. All right, that's the graph of the DI with the switches in the setting of 1110, which is basically the setting that has the most bass. It hasn't cut the bass in any way, hasn't made it lean. Okay, and the graph I'm going to show you now is the non-switch type DI. I'm just going to make it in red so that it stands out. Okay, the non-switch DI is this one, which looks very similar. Okay, but the fact that it's got that extra, let's say 2 dBs across the most of the bass and mid bass, it just gives that extra body that lacks sometimes in the DFI, in the switched version, in the ones that has the switches. That's just my opinion. That's what I hear personally, and that's why I say I prefer the non-switch DFI to the switch type. That you can see that they are very similar. They both are having Zobel networks. It's just the way that, well, on one I'm sure there's less circuitry, or less circuitry is probably engaged into the whole scheme, and so it just sounds better. Honestly, for me, it just sounds better. And then I'm just going to throw in the ZVX for good measure here. And although, for example, actually, how can I put this? The ZVX compared with the DI in its, with the one with the switches, the fact that it has that little extra, less energy there in the mids, and that enables it to match itself better, and make the sound be more balanced out and not so skewed towards the mids. Again, I think just makes the ZVX the nicest sounding IM. The ZVX compared with the DFI with no switches, it's very similar. They are both very equal. You just notice that the DFI with the no switches is just a little bit extra more polished in its presentation. That's what you notice. And this is, I mean, minor differences. Anyway, guys, this has been a really long review. And as usual, please, any questions that you might have, please feel free to ask. And I'll do my best to answer. As always, I always try and do my best. And that's it. All right, like and subscribe. You know how the YouTube gods are. If you don't click on there, I'm not going to get more subscribers, and I want to continue sharing my passion with you guys and bringing you more interesting reviews. I've got a few very interesting reviews coming up. You guys are going to be impressed. So yeah, that's it. You take care now. Bye bye.